Hey, I'm John Greaves III, founder of Garage Gym Life.
Hi, my name's Glenn and founder of the KB6.
And we are going to be having a conversation with each other, and you guys get to listen in. Please put your comments in below because we want to hear from you about tips for creating lasting change this year. No more diet roller coaster, no more annual New Year's resolutions that we break, don't follow through on, and then by spring, we have to start getting in shape for summer. So let's just cut all of that out. And Glenn, you are a very accomplished trainer. You work with a lot of people showing, I think your specialty, from what I could tell, is basically helping people who have busy schedules still get in shape with minimal equipment. Is that fair?
Yeah, I mean, like I've sort of specialized in two areas. That is, I'm a lower back pain specialist under Professor Stuart McGill, and I'm also a kettlebell specialist. But because of how long that I've been doing this, working with everyone from professional athletes in the Premier League and mixed martial arts and all that sort of stuff, all the way down to sort of people with disabilities or at the end of their life, everyone in between. Right. I'm adept to helping anyone that comes my way, really. And because I've got a little one, I live in the real world. I'm not just some influencer that wakes up with a morning routine and can take 2 hours to have coffee and meditation. Yeah. No, I live in the real world, and sometimes minimum effective dose workouts, those kind of workouts or nutrition or supplementation, whatever that routine is that needs to be shoehorned into a busy life already. I understand that process, and I've become an expert at it and an expert at advising my clients as well.
You know, there's so many people who are in the home gym lifestyle for so many different reasons. One key group are people who, because of COVID, they started working from home. Mm-hmm. And so they're like, well, my gym is closed and I'm working from home. I might as well just start working out here. Right. But because of COVID, a lot of people ended up becoming, even though we're coming out of lockdown in a lot of places, there are a lot of people who put on a lot of extra weight as well. So for those people, as well as for people who have just been struggling for a while to kind of get off of what I've been calling the diet roller coaster, what is like your number one tips for somebody who just wants to I made a resolution and I haven't quite taken action yet? What would you say to that person?
I'd say start with simple things, simple rules, and start with the things you love. So if I could go into a tiny bit more detail there.
Sure, please.
Normally when people sort of set those New Year's resolutions, they set resolutions or goals or practices that tend to look like a bit of an overhaul of what they were doing before. So it's a totally different habit. It's a totally different schedule. It's going to require different time. It's a total overhaul. So it doesn't really work. And at about this point in the year, sort of 2 to 2.5, maybe even 3 weeks into January, it's not sustainable. So it falls apart. And when it falls apart, you judge yourself. You think, well, why can't I do anything right? Why can't I succeed in this thing? Why can't I do it for long enough? So what I tend to say to people is pick something that you love. Let's take training as an example, because so often people go, oh, I hate running, but I have to run. Don't run. Right. Yeah. If you love cycling, find 10 minutes to cycle, or cycle on your way to go pick your kid up, or cycle in a way that coordinates that new habit with a thing that you already have to do. So make it useful or make it part of your life in a way that's going to be sustainable. And when you do it, congratulate yourself for it.
Celebrate,
we respond really well to positive feedback. We respond well to negative.
Get more of the behavior that you reward.
Exactly. Yeah. So acknowledge what you want to change, that negative feedback loop, and reward yourself for any tiny step taken toward accomplishing that. Right. Because if you think, oh, but it was only a 10-minute bike ride. No. It was 10 minutes more than you'd done, or 10 minutes more than you would have done if you thought only. It wasn't only, it was 10 minutes more than you would have done. And that's awesome. Right. So however small that change is, congratulate yourself for it, acknowledge it, and then ask yourself, how long can I keep this going at exactly this rate or volume? So just 10 minutes, let's do 5 more days. And then maybe there's 2 minutes you can add to that bike ride without going such a direct route to where you need to go. Right. Or Perhaps you can add in another 10-minute block later on in the day. Really small, manageable steps. And at every point along the journey, congratulate yourself for it. And for me personally, putting those goals out there. So I talk to my wife or my friends about what I'm hoping to accomplish, so that it's out there. And I've got people that might not want to check in with me, but I feel accountable.
Right. I like what you said. I add to that. So there's a guy who I've been helping, and he's in a situation where he had his leg amputated, one of his legs amputated. So he became very, very, very sedentary.
Mm-hmm.
And I said, look, the thing you need to think about is you have this vision in your head of what you will be at your ideal point, and you're not there. So what I would say is you need to start transforming yourself into that person.
Mm-hmm.
But Rome wasn't built in a day. You can't just immediately become that person tomorrow. Mm-hmm. Yes, I can say, all right, look, it's easy. All I have to do is just, I don't know if well, I'm a little bit older, but Seinfeld. Classic show, right? Yeah, Seinfeld. So there's that one episode where George Costanza just decides to do the opposite of everything that his natural instincts would tell him to do, and his entire life turned around.
Right.
And the reality is that that's the same for us. Why do I weigh too much? Okay, well, because I eat too much and I don't move enough. Well, if I eat a little less and move a little bit more, that's a flip in the other direction. But it's not so big, so intimidating that I can't do it. So my advice to my friend was, you need to start moving around, just around your house. It doesn't have to be intimidating. It doesn't have to be this huge thing. Just get up and I call it movement snacks. Start adding a little bit more movement into your day. The things you already do. Things you already do.
That's great.
You hear people say all the time, well, park a little bit further away from the grocery store when you go to the grocery store. That seems like a small thing. It's an inconvenient thing, but if you start doing it in a year, it won't even be inconvenient. It'll just be who you are.
Right.
You know, you would have transformed yourself, but in a way that doesn't, it's that just noticeable difference. You know what I mean? You're increasing
it's not totally invasive, right? It's not totally invasive. Right. Yeah.
And
I love that. That's a really cool thought around movement snacks. I might nick that one if I can.
Oh, you can have it. Well, and it's huge for somebody who works out who works from home, or someone who's a mom, or a stay-at-home dad. Either one. You're at home with the kids, and our instinct is the kids get down for a nap. We want to try to do everything right then. And I say, well, no, because I know a few people who are in that situation, and what they do instead is say, okay, well, the baby's awake. Babies like moving around with you. So maybe I'll get on the floor and I'll crawl with the baby if the baby's old enough to crawl. Well, we're interacting, we're bonding. Maybe if the baby's not old enough to crawl, I just walk around holding the baby. All right. And I know you're not supposed to hold, I've got 5 kids. I know you're not supposed to carry a baby all the time. But I mean, just those little things, just find ways to just move a little bit more and increase your, I said NEPA, your non-exercise physical activity.
Sure.
Because it's not about just that 1 hour, that 45-minute block. It's about what you do all of the time.
No, look, I mean, I think that's exactly right. I think people think too much about having to be in the right situation in order to call it exercise, or in order to acknowledge that it's calorie burn or whatever. But actually, our bodies are not only burning calories or only building muscle when we walk through the threshold of the gym or set the time. It doesn't work like that. So I totally agree. Having elements, so I personally call it habit stacking. So with my clients, what we tend to do is, if there is a habitual practice in the day, 10 cups of coffee or cups of tea or whatever it is, while that thing is happening, you've got an opportunity to stack with that habit, because the time is already being used, a successful practice. So whether it's a back pain client, we're going to be going through some sort of spine hygiene practice while the kettle's boiling, or, we try and stack things with other things that are happening, rather than trying to pass out a perfect hour of time that is going to be dedicated towards your health, mobility, strength training, whatever. But good posture happens throughout the day, mobility happens throughout the day. The advantage of having kids, 5 or 1, is that they will require you to move a lot. They require, Dad, get down on the floor. I want to show you this thing. Like, let's go upstairs and get the toys and let's go. So there's a lot of movement anyway.
Yeah.
That's it's a really positive thing. But, you know, for some of my clients that are further behind than I am, and whatever sort of spectrum or scale you place that on, every time you stand up from the couch, do 5 more stand up sit downs. Let's not call them squats, that's scary. Just, you know, do 5 of those.
Right. I love that. And so I'm blessed. 4 of the 5 kids are adults now. In fact, I'm a grandfather actually this year.
Congratulations.
Thank you. My son and his wife blessed my wife and I with a granddaughter last year. But that being said, it's a pattern that they've watched me follow. And I love what you call the habit stacking. So you say, okay, well, I make tea, and while it's boiling, I'm going to do this thing. That's what I do with the things that I don't like doing. And let's say if I don't like crunches, I'll do them during a TV commercial of my favorite show. Because once the commercial's over, I can stop. Right. And then there was another one. One of the things I started doing when I was trying to get back into running was I enjoy lifting. I don't enjoy running. So what I would do is I say, okay, during my warm up, I'm going to run. So I have my warm up exercises. I do a set of the warm up exercise and I run for 2 minutes on the treadmill. Well, there's about 6 exercises in the warm up, you know, that's 12. Yeah, so that's 12 minutes right there, and my heart, you know what I mean? I'm moving around, and then I stop and do the workout. Your focus is on something that you actually enjoy. Exactly. So it's like I said, it's like I eat my vegetables so I can have my dessert. You know, and that's it. All right, so we've talked about people who are struggling to get started. Now, what about the people who did get started? They were motivated January 1st. They got up, they were right on there. Their life looked like a Rocky movie for the Rocky training montage. It looked just like that for about a week. And then something happened. Something happened because businesses are busy after the first of the year. That's when they ramp things up. So all of a sudden life happens and you've fallen off the wagon and you're trying to figure out a way. You're ashamed of yourself. So how do you, number one, coach your clients to deal with that guilt of having failed, especially if this is an annual thing? And then also, how do you get back on the wagon? How do you get back out there and say, okay, let's just start back over? The same way I get started is the same way I get going again, essentially. So more often than not, what I do when a client comes to me and sort of brings that element of shame into the conversation is that I thank them for telling me and thank them for being vulnerable enough to express that. Because actually that's probably the most difficult bit. And if you could then encourage them to say, do you know what? I think what you were relying on, motivation, and what you were trying to do, an hour's workout 5 days a week, the intention was good, but the placement of that intention was poor. So your requirement for success was A, being motivated, and B, maintaining 5 one-hour workouts a week. Well, that's not realistic. I don't know about you, but I'm very rarely truly motivated to train. It happens every so often, and there may be an element of a workout I'm motivated for, but the rest of the workout I'm not that motivated for. But look, I'm the son of a dentist, so I have a lot of dental analogies. It's like brushing your teeth. You're not motivated to brush your teeth twice a day. Hopefully it's twice a day. You just bloody do it. So because it's a habit. It's a habit, and it's one that as a thinking, wise adult, you go like, I want my teeth by this time next year, so I'm going to brush them. Even if me brushing them today, I don't check for the benefit every day, and that's what people do after every workout. They do one curl and check themselves in the mirror, has it grown yet? It's unnecessary. We need to have the same stamina for our goals in the gym that we do for our habits in life, because I deal with very successful people in law or in finance or in whatever. Their ability to set a goal and have a stamina for it is fantastic in work, but they want results immediately in other places in their life. And when they don't get it, they feel like they didn't get something that they deserved or were owed. And so they
step off that sort of motivational train by themselves. When in actuality, if we go back to one of the first points I made, find something you love. If your training is centered around something you enjoy or training towards something that will reward you, then you're going to do it because you enjoy it. Whether it's 15 minutes of training or an hour and a half of training, you're going to do it because you enjoy it. The motivation isn't so important. The dedication
is the fact that you're doing the thing you enjoy, right?
Exactly. So I would just encourage that person to say, what one small step can we bring back in? If I could get you to walk to the shops and do a 15-minute EMOM every other day, then that's a 15-minute intense workout and some extra movement. Fantastic. Do that for 3 days. You can call yourself a success and move on.
So do you advise people to maybe try a sport or a new activity, something that's obviously not going to kill them? You know, I wouldn't say take someone who's 60, you know, somebody's 60 years old, or even a lot of time, I see this a lot. You get someone, usually it's men, they're 40 years old, and they decide they're going to get in shape. So they go down to the local YMCA and they start playing pickup basketball. Well, their knees start to hurt because the last time they played pickup basketball was when they were in high school or in 7th grade. And so they were able to handle the rigors of it. And now their body can't handle that because they're detrained and they're older. The joints aren't as forgiving. So now you got them running up and down a court. They're 20 pounds overweight, 30 pounds overweight. You've got all this pounding. God forbid they're jumping. You know, and now it's hard. Now they have to make it. Oh, and then the next day they're paying for it. So now they're having to make themselves go. And so they make themselves go, you know, over the course of a week or 2 weeks. And the camaraderie maybe is good for them and it keeps them going. But they reach a tipping point where they're just like, man, I just couldn't handle it. And so they slack off. So do you advise people, when you're telling them to find something they love, do you kind of say, okay, well, give me an idea what it is you plan on trying to kind of make sure, and then say, maybe we need to dial that back a little bit?
Absolutely. I always approach these things collaboratively with my clients. There's the goals they bring to the table, the goals I bring to the table, and where the two shall meet. And sometimes someone will have a lofty goal and I have to sort of rein them in and make them aware of what's realistic and how we can still call that goal an achieved goal, even if it looks different to what they initially thought that goal would look like. For example, that pickup game of basketball, can you play 5 days a week? Probably not. But what if you played once a week and the rest of the week you took care of your body so that that game was better and you saw improvement in the way that
now you look forward to that day. You
Correct.
look forward to the day, where you can like, gotcha.
So, goal setting is important. And for those people that don't have a desire to set a goal, because there are plenty of people like that too, that want to do the thing because they know it's good, want to start training because they want to look after their health, but they don't necessarily have a reason beyond their health, which is somewhat of an ethereal goal. I start drawing their attention to why they might be doing this, because if they don't have grandkids yet, wouldn't it be nice to be able to take the grandkids for a walk or a run or to keep up with them in general, etc. So I try and make them aware of, like, perhaps the goal is not sport or a 500-pound deadlift, but perhaps the goal is not being pre-diabetic anymore so that you stick around for your family, or not having a bad back so that you can put your grandkids in and out of a car without wincing every time. You know, goals are varied. And for me, a goal might look like a new personal best lift or a belt in a martial art or whatever. But for other people, a goal might be, like, I've worked with a 92-year-old whose goal it was to be able to stand up out of a chair on her own so that she could go for a walk with her grandkids. And before she died, we managed to be able to do that.
That is phenomenal.
She had about 8 months of relatively pain-free movement as a 93-year-old, where she engaged with her great-grandchildren and had a wonderful extended end of life, and then passed away at 94. But we accomplished a very significant end-of-life goal.
That's phenomenal. I mean, so what was going through my head, I don't know if you guys get it over there. You're in England, in case anyone's can't tell by your accent. And I'm not, in case anyone can't tell by my accent.
Exactly.
But I don't know if you guys got this commercial, but there was a commercial, and I really wish I could remember the brand now. So if you're watching and you know the commercial when I say it, put in the comments what the commercial is. But it's of an old man and an older man, and he goes out of his house and he walks into like this shed or something like
I
this.
know the
Oh, you guys,
commercial. I've seen it.
yeah, he picks up the kettlebell, he weighs it.
Exactly. Yeah.
Yes, right. And so the neighbors are looking at him like, what's wrong with this guy? And he faithfully is doing it. And it's because he wanted to be able to pick up his granddaughter.
Right.
And when I saw that, so of course I paid attention to it because I was like, oh, this guy's in a home gym. So that's the first thing that got my attention. But then I saw what he was doing. I was like, man,
Got my
that's
attention too,
so
like,
amazing. He's grabbing a kettlebell. I was like, man, this is it. That right there, whoever made this commercial gets it.
Yeah, yeah.
They get it. Because that is such a huge deal to just, it's not necessarily that you're adding length to your life, but you're adding quality to the life that you have.
Right. Health span, not just lifespan.
Exactly. It's such an amazing thing. So the other part of the question is, what about telling them, hey, why don't you pick up a new skill?
Sort of where I start bringing in my goals for them, which often is around neuroplasticity or around balance, or I don't think I've ever in 12 years started with a client and have had them say to me, I want to be better at balancing. It never happens.
Right.
But it's always one of my goals, because if you can balance, you're less likely to fall. If you don't fall, you don't get injured, you don't die early. So for me, balance is a massive part of improving someone's quality of life.
Right.
And in improving people's balance, you actually have a massive effect on their brain chemistry, the connections between the neurons, their neuroplasticity, the way that they are able to move. And that is a new skill. I tend to have like a rhythm my sessions go in, and the way they go is normally like the front of the session, the beginning is very much catered toward the client feeling comfortable, feeling certain about what they know they can do, having mastery over certain skills, etc.
Right.
And in the next phase, they're going to be attempting something relatively new, or trying to pull their new PR, or what. It's very rare that we get a PR type thing, but I mean, like, you know, doing a new skill or trying to balance something that might frustrate them a bit.
Right.
Just enough frustration to create growth and not despondency to the workout.
Gotcha.
And then we wrap the whole workout up. So if we divide it into thirds, the last sort of 20 minutes of that hour is again going to be focused on things that they're really good at, that give them a good sort of dump of endorphins and dopamine.
Dessert.
So they finish those good.
Yeah. So I do this with myself personally, and whenever someone gives me, asks me for advice, which happens all the time. Once people find out what I do, they ask me all the time, and I say, hey, I'm not a coach, but I'm happy to tell you what I've picked up, right? And I usually recommend something that they haven't done. So if there's somebody who I can tell might have problems getting on the ground and getting up, I say, okay, I want you to try to crawl. So I tell them about crawling. Usually it's leopard crawl, just because that's easier than a bear crawl. You're behind, your behind is up in the air. Your breathing is restricted. That's a difficult position for people if you haven't been to crawling. So I said, just crawl. I said, and just your goal is to be able to crawl all the way down here. And then, so you do martial arts, so you know what shrimping is. Yeah. Right. So crawl down to this end of the room and then shrimp back.
Your way back up.
Yeah, shrimp back. That is such a man, that kills your abs so much. But the point and the reason why I do that is because Dan John talks about inefficient movement. So when the less efficient you are at something, the more calories you're going to burn to do it. And like you were saying about balancing, once you get to the point where you can get on the ground and get back up without a problem, you're less afraid of falling.
100%.
And the crawling movement improves your vestibular system, the connection across. And I try not to give any instructions. I say, just crawl, figure it out. Let your body figure it out. The same way it did the first time.
That's very Dan John in itself, isn't it?
Yeah, just get down there and just figure it out.
Yeah.
You'll figure it out, and you'll suck at it in the beginning. But the beauty of it is you're at home. Nobody's going to see you. So when you get tired, stop and stand up.
Right.
You still had to get on the ground and get back up.
100%.
The other one, well, there's other two, is juggling. So I started learning to juggle, right? Because The reason is you start juggling, you're not going to be good at it. What's going to happen when you try to juggle? You're going to drop the ball.
Yeah.
Well, then what do you have to do? You got to go get it.
I like it.
You know what I mean? You got to go get it.
Yeah.
I just gave you a thing to do that's going to frustrate you, but it's going to get you moving, right?
Nice.
And then the last one, if you're somebody who the juggling and that sort of movement wouldn't be enough for, but if you're really stiff in the shoulders, you've been doing a lot of like heavy powerlifting style movements, I'll show you some rope flow. Again, it's something that's intricate. It's easy on the knees because there's no jumping, but your mind has to think. Got a very neurological component, but it's fun. Then you start feeling like, oh, wow, I can do all these little tricks. And then it becomes the next thing you know, you've been doing this thing for 15 minutes and didn't realize it. And you're like, why are my shoulders sore? Well,
and I'm
because
sweating.
you've been, what just happened, you know? Yeah.
John, that's for me, that's, whether it's through my social media or clients in person, I keep this element of the importance of play and creativity quite present in the way that I train, in the way that I train my clients. Firstly, if you're not having fun, you're not going to do it. So
100%.
That goes back to what I said before. Find a way, something you enjoy, or find a way to have fun with the thing, and you'll do it more because you're going to have fun doing it. But creativity is part of that neuroplasticity. It's part of that, like that drive to
stay young, mentally young. Yeah,
you do. And funnily enough, I juggle with kettlebells. I mean, not in the same way.
Yes.
Like kettlebells, but you're like flipping the handles around and that sort of stuff. And hand-eye coordination, the fast twitch muscle fiber work. In terms of going to and from the floor, that's why I love the Turkish get up, whether it's weighted or unweighted, because plenty of my clients, or even up to sort of their mid to late 70s, will be learning for the very first time with nothing in their hand how to do,
use like a shoe or something,
use a shoe or a cup or anything like that they will learn Turkish get-ups, because that's good joint proprioception, stability, going to and from the floor under your own control. It's great mobility, and when you start including load, it's a fantastic strength exercise. So you know, so that for me, everyone that is able, as in no major health issues or limbs amputees, those sorts of people, if you're able, you should be doing crawls, get-ups, carries, those sorts of things.
Even if you can't crawl, if you can get on the ground and just roll.
Roll
on your belly, roll in your back, roll in your belly, roll in your back, roll in your belly, on your back. I love stuff that you can dumb down to its most basic premise, so that a 5-year-old and a 25-year-old and a 45-year-old and a 65-year-old could all do the same exercise. And you just, like the CrossFit people say, you can just scale it.
Right.
But they're all doing the same thing.
Yeah.
So they're all getting the benefits, you know. So
I've got a small video in my library, in the phone library here, that I haven't posted yet, but it's my 3-year-old, myself, and my dad. So my 3-year-old, I'm 36, my dad's 65, all doing a version of what you're talking about. So we all lay on the ground, and I said to my 3-year-old, like, who can stand first?
Oh, wow, that's awesome.
So we're all playing this game, and we do it in the jiu-jitsu mats as well. Like both of you lying on your side, shoulder to shoulder, first one to stand goes for the takedown, you know, so it's exactly what you're talking about. But we took this video during the summer of like, here's a simple drill that's going to teach my son how to move his body better as he grows up, but is a training or mobility modality for myself and my dad. And we're all having fun. So it's creative, it's playful, it's lighthearted.
Beautiful.
Training doesn't have to be heavy in the emotional sense. It can be.
Tell me one of the things that's like a success trait. You're like, I've noticed that all of my clients who are successful do this thing.
I think it's finding the thing that you enjoy in the process, and then getting into the detail, because it doesn't matter whether I'm dealing with one of my clients that is a successful professional, like I said, a barrister in finance, a psychotherapist, whatever. They love what they do because they found something in their pursuit of knowledge that they enjoyed, and they drilled down into the detail and became like a upper echelon professional within their industry. The same thing goes for training. The same thing goes, right? You find something that you enjoy, some element of training that you enjoy, and become a bit obsessed. I encourage people. Obsession has got like a sort of dirty tinge to it. I don't know why in the UK at least, to become obsessed with something is almost a negative trait, but I disagree. I think mastery lies in obsession. You cannot achieve progress toward mastery and then mastery unless you've been obsessing about that process.
You just look at Michael Jordan.
Yeah, you don't get it. And we're built, human beings are built for that feedback loop. We get such great dumps of dopamine and serotonin when we try something new, struggle, but then succeed because we keep struggling until we succeed. We get such a reward from the process, not from the success, but from the process, that I encourage people. And this is in an active discussion, because you see people's focus or joy shift as they notice that, oh, I thought I liked that thing, but I'm better at that. So I'm getting better feedback from that thing. So my joy has switched focus over there. And then I show them like, oh, okay, if your joy has now switched to kettlebell training, I'll use that as an example, then I bet you don't even know about these goals that you could have with this new line of joy that you found. So it's essentially my job in that situation to show them goals that they don't know are there, and then they can become obsessed about accomplishing that thing. And then we just take tiny steps regularly. But what have you found, John? What have you found?
So the first thing I say about what you just said, you said two things that stuck out to me. And one of them was, human beings are built a certain way, right? We're built to focus on a thing. And I agree with it because without getting all Discovery Channel, our eyes are in front, and not on the side like a prey animal that sees, right? We're predator, right? And so what do you see a predator do? If you watch any nature show, the predator focuses in on the thing it wants and goes after that thing. We're built. You notice that when we're walking, we don't walk that way. So I always tell people, you get closer, you move closer to the thing that you focus on. And that's what I think is like the thing about obsession. That's the positive side. And it can be negative. So if I obsess about alcohol, I could become an alcoholic because I'm focused on just that to the exclusion of everything else. And I think that's what people get concerned about. But I think that along the way, if you start to focus on just being a better you, you actually find that it enhances the rest of your life as well. Because then another thing is, you start to attract other people who are also focused that way. 100%. And now you, success likes to be, there's a quote from the football coach for the University of Alabama. And he said, high achievers don't like mediocre people, and mediocre people don't like high achievers. So you start to attract people who are like you. And that community support is going to empower you. But to answer your question, I've noticed, I don't notice everyone doing this, but everyone I see who does this is successful. And
I'm excited.
They drink water when they first wake up.
No, it's been one of my #1 rules. 12 years, I'm like a broken record. Like a broken record that
as soon as you wake up,
we should be doing. It's so
we did not practice that. We did not rehearse.
Simple, man. It's like you change everything when you just, if you're well hydrated, everything fucking operates better.
You didn't see your face when I said it. You're like, yeah. But because if you think about it, so let's say you sleep for 5 hours. That's not enough time. But let's say you sleep for 5 hours. Your body hasn't had anything to drink for 5 hours. And if you have been drinking other things, let's say it's alcohol or even soda, you've dehydrated yourself.
Energy
or maybe you ate before you went to bed. That's absorbed your moisture. So you wake up and you're tired. You're trying to say, I just can't get started in the mornings. I can't get started till I have my morning coffee. I can't do this. Okay. First of all, I'm telling you a secret that a person who had started a coffee brand told me, and it's something similar to what supplement manufacturers will tell you too. So if you drink your coffee or you drink a pre-workout, that's going to take 20 to 45 minutes to kick in. So if you wake up and then you go shuffle into the kitchen and make coffee, or maybe you had Alexa make coffee for you. So you shuffle in the kitchen to get your coffee. Okay, well, however long it takes for you to get to the kitchen, that's that time. And then however long, and then you drink your coffee. And let's say you take it black, so you don't waste any time putting stuff in it. You drink it black. It's still going to take you at least 25 minutes or so to wake up. If you drink water, immediately you feel better. Immediately. Now, I know what you're saying, but when I wake up, I have to pee. It's okay. You're not a funnel. You're not a funnel. So if you drink that water, it's not the same water. It's not going to hurt you. But just, I have water by my bed. And that's one of the first things I drink. I get up, I drink some water. And then as I go through my morning routine, I'm drinking water. Now, do I drink pre-workout? Yes, because I work out in the morning. But that's not the foundation of I know I'm not going to get that for like 45 minutes.
Exactly. And that's not how you're getting ready and how you're
exactly.
Right? No.
It's not even going to keep me going through the workout. Hydration is.
I really force myself to get 7 hours a night. Like I wake up really early. I wake up at 4:45.
Right.
And so 7 hours means going to bed pretty early. It's pretty unsociable. But
I get about 7. I get about 7 too.
The advice I've been given for 12 years is water, but it's gone hand in hand with sleep. Like you need to prioritize these two things, because if they put them in pill form, you'd be shoving them in your mouth constantly. The benefits from sleep and just being hydrated pretty much outweigh any other supplement. So before I always, whenever I start with a client and they go, so what supplement should I take? I'm like, okay, what you should take is water and sleep. When you've done that for 3 months and it's a habit, we can talk about caffeine. Otherwise, I don't talk to people about supplementation until they've got the foundations right. Right. And whilst the kettle is boiling, I wake up, kettle's boiling. I'm gonna make my coffee, but while it's boiling, I down 500 milliliters, half a liter, which would be about 15 fluid ounces, I guess. Then 15 ounces of water. Right. And then I don't drink my coffee. I put it in a thermos. And I don't drink it for an hour and a half after I wake up, maybe 2 hours. Okay. Because I want to wake up. I go straight to clients. I'm not like you. I don't wake up and then train. I wake up and then train other people. So I wake up, I get to the gym where I'm going to be training people. I've got the lights in my eyes. I'm waking up because of water, because of movement, because of conversation. After my first client, then I'm allowed my coffee. And that's my
vegetables before dessert.
Yeah, that's my rule, because again, that's about the receptor sites in your brain that are going to get clogged up by caffeine. As you're waking up, you're trying to clear something from the receptor sites in your brain. And caffeine sits on the same receptor site and has an 8-hour half-life. So when that eventually clears, because the second you've woken up, you've drunk caffeine, those receptor sites are still going to try and scratch the sleep from their eyes because you didn't give them a chance. And that's why you get crashed. Whereas if you wake up, get sunlight in your eyes, get moving, allow your brain to process all of that, then you are awake. The caffeine can now do its job. When the caffeine is processed, I don't crash because I don't have latent like sleep hormone signaling in my brain that still needs to be processed.
There are certain things that I do because I do wake up and I train, just like, okay, it starts my day. And also it makes me think. So like, as I'm training, I start getting ideas. Yeah. So I do certain things is like really quick to get myself going, kind of like similar to what you do. So what I do is I wake up, I drink the water. So I'll have a sip of pre-workout, I drink, then I start drinking the water, right? Then the next thing I'm going to do is I get up, go in the bathroom. If I need to pee or something, I'll pee. But I wash my face with warm water to start getting my temperature up. Yeah. If I need to, I'll shave my face at least, because the process is exfoliating. Yeah, but then what do you do after you shave? You put cold water in your face. So I just gave my face a contrast shower. Blood vessels are close to the skin. I'm waking myself up. You know what I mean? So by the time I'm done with all of that, I'm hydrated and I'm awake. And now I go downstairs and I go train. The beauty of it is though, that by the time and if you're somebody who's watching this and you're in that situation, let's say you have to be a worker, because I used to get up and work out at 4 o'clock in the morning. So it's still dark. And the reason I worked out at 4 a.m. was because my kids had to go to school and I was training with them. and I had to be at
That's
work by 7.
dedication. That's dedication. That's not motivation, John. Well done.
Well, it was just,
Well
but
done.
that's the thing. It was just as part of who we were.
But that's it. But what you're no. But that's not a small point that you're making seem like a small point. What you've accomplished there is accepting that a decision made of sound mind to look after your body,
right,
is a decision worth respecting, regardless of how you feel in the moment when the alarm goes off.
Right. And I mean, it was, I'm not going to lie, it was brutal.
Of course, it's not easy. It's not easy. So well done.
But it had to be done because I had to be at work at 7. So I said, okay, so we're going to do it. But the advantage of it was that when I was driving down the road and I see other people in the car and they're still groggy, I'm awake. The sunlight hits me, I get to work and I'm energized because I've already, number one, I've already accomplished something that day. So if you're in that situation and you like, man, I could never do that, I'm just telling you, just try it. If you have to, the next time you have vacation, take your vacation, let's say you get a week off or even a day off, just try it. Wake up, work out, do, whatever that is for you. And then just see how the rest of your day goes and see how good you feel. And lest anybody think that, we are just coming from the perspective of people who have just always been in shape. I want you to understand that I started out, I was really, really thin. Okay. And I worked really hard to get to the point where I was in shape. But then a couple of years ago, I had a really bad car wreck and it rolled, my SUV rolled over 5 times. So I couldn't train. It's not that I had the ability to move around, but I was limited, and so we're going through all that. I could train a little bit, but I couldn't train the way I want to. So I've put on weight. So now I'm back to the process. I've already started, but I'm back to the process, just going back to okay, I know what works. I know what I need to do. So let's just, once you become that person, you go back into your, like, okay, this is what I need to do to get back to where I'm supposed to be. And I'm telling you, those principles are working for me now, just like they did when I first was stepping out on this journey in the first place.
The way you started was the way you got back to starting.
Yeah.
Don't reinvent the wheel and have some whole new habit scheme that you need to employ to be successful. You go, you know what? Set the alarm, do what I can do, even if it seems like it's not worth doing because it's so limited or it's so easy or it's so light, or just do it.
Do something
a little bit. It's so acetylcholine and norepinephrine.
Oh, okay.
Acetylcholine and norepinephrine are the things that need that. At least I think. I'm not a sleep chemist. Neurochemist, but I think that's right.
That sounds right, because epinephrine is a component of the adrenaline. So norepinephrine is the opposite. Yeah. So we want you guys to be able to check out more of what I do here on YouTube. We want you guys to be able to check out more of what Glen does on YouTube, as well as check him out on Instagram, check me out on Instagram. So we're going to go ahead and give the people watching our information so they can follow us and subscribe. So Glen, you go ahead.
Yeah, I think the best place to follow me is probably on Instagram. That's where I put out stuff every single day, and all of my links are on my link tree on my Instagram. So it's the KB6, and that's me on Instagram. All of my links are on there. I do have a YouTube channel with tons of stuff on there as well, free workouts, explanations. I love teaching with kettlebells, so you'll probably find more sort of coaching for kettlebell stuff on my page than anywhere else, because that's really my obsession, more than just showing off a cool flow. You'll be able to learn. And John, what about you? How do we find you?
All right, you can find me at Garage Gym Life Media here on YouTube, and you can find me at Garage Gym Life on Instagram. We're going to put the links to all of those, both Glen's and my information, in the description for the video, so that you guys can just click the link. Please subscribe, like the video, share this video with others who you think might be able to use it, and who. We're not trying to condemn anybody or make anybody feel bad. We truly, truly do want to help you guys out. So anybody you think who could use this resource, please share this video with them. And I look forward to seeing you guys telling me about all your successes, and tell me what that commercial was in the comments. Tell me what the commercial was.
Someone leave that link down below, because that is not only,
that's one of my favorite commercials ever.
One of the best ads ever, and just a beautiful analogy for how training can make sense in your life.